I was born on September 30th, and today is September 30th, 1943, in Peralta Hospital in Oakland. My dad was in the Army, which meant that we lived in different cities around the world, including Tokyo, Munich, Paris, and Honolulu. I must have been 8 or 9 when the German school that was right next to our military school and we had agreed to do a convocation together to celebrate Christmas. The day came, and there were all these candy bars piled up on the stage from us that we'd been asked to bring. But the Germans sang Christmas carols. They sang them so beautifully, I can't describe it. It made me cry. I remembered it vividly from then on and was determined to learn German and to learn early music. We were living in Hawaii when it became a state in 1959, which is when we went back to California, actually. And whenever we didn't live abroad or in Hawaii, we stayed at my grandmother's house in Piedmont, and that's where I went to high school. I got my BA in English from the University of Oregon and went on to graduate school, but I spent much more time in the music department than the English department. I went to a lot of concerts and I joined the choir. I heard a gorgeous oboe piece and I wanted to learn how to play the oboe, but I felt I was already too old to learn an instrument. But one day, as I was riding my bicycle through the cemetery, I felt a hand on my back and I heard a voice saying, "You can do this." So I learned how to play the oboe. I went back to California, studied music at San Francisco State, continued learning the oboe, and got really good at it. I became first oboist in several orchestras and gave oboe lessons to students. Unfortunately, this was the time when my mother died in 1967. I had just turned 24 and she had just turned 59. We were very close and it was devastating. I struggled for many years. After a while, I got tired of 19th century music and I fell in love with early music. I learned various wind instruments, recorders, shawms, Rauschpfeifen, crumhorns, and also Baroque oboe. I was playing in Santa Cruz with Bill Matthews' group. It had lost its gamba player, so I learned how to play the viola da gamba. My teacher was Martha Blackman, a renowned cellist and gambist. She was the gamba player for the New York Pro Musica and the gamba teacher at Stanford. She was very, very musical and charismatic and influenced many, many people. I found her magical. I received a scholarship for Stanford and got my master's degree in music in '79. My thesis director was George Houle. I worked with a volume of Murray that was covered with handwritten markings that showed how the pieces of that period would have been performed. It was a very exciting study and I worked day and night on it. After finishing my master's, I went to Basel to study with Jordi Savall. While there, I visited Café Frauenzimmer. It was the first restaurant in Switzerland that was for women only, where women could meet and socialize without being harassed. And it was just great. It was such a discovery. So Monica was one of the founding members of the collective, and she worked there when I visited. I eventually worked there too. And after a year, Monica came back with me to California. She became the love of my life. In 2008, we were legally married. Back in California, I needed a steady income. I became a paralegal and worked in law firms. And when I wasn't working, we spent a lot of time in nature and having a wonderful time. In 1987, I quit smoking and took up long-distance cycling. I still wanted to finish my master's, so I went back to school at UC Berkeley. It was a very, very different education than the one I'd received at the University of Oregon in the 1960s. The new perspectives on race, class, and gender were eye-opening and exhilarating. I enrolled in English and Cultural Studies at the University of Wisconsin, where I got my doctorate. I was fascinated with tomboys. I was a tomboy myself, and I immersed myself in the studying of tomboys and lesbian pulp fiction. The alluring covers were targeting men, but publishers were astonished at the nation of women who were an unexpected and huge audience. I taught at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for several years, which was an extremely fulfilling time in my life. I came back to California and taught at Sonoma State and later at San Quentin Prison. I looked for 3 years for a permanent position as a university professor, but I was then in my 50s and not too surprisingly, I just couldn't find one. In 2003, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. And with operations, chemo, radiation, some repeats of those things, survival became a full-time job. Monica, our 2 dogs, Flossie and LaRue, and many good friends were a constant source of comfort and support. After I recovered, I was very lucky to find a job as the administrator at the Center for Environmental Studies and then the Center for Social Justice at UC Berkeley's Law School. I retired in 2010. While still at UC Berkeley, I got involved with the restorative justice program at San Quentin and stuck with that for about 15 years. It was a fabulous experience working with the men, helping them to grow into understanding what restorative justice was, which is basically making right or making healing out of whatever happened between violators and victims. I also picked up the viol again after not playing it for 20 years. years. I also joined Zelle. It's a women's amateur vocal ensemble being directed by two members of Kitka. First, Janet Katulis, and currently Juliana Grafagna.